Before Jamaica became synonymous with modern sprinting greatness, there was Don Quarrie, a man who could make an Olympic stadium hold its breath simply by stepping toward the starting blocks.
Because I had goals. At an early age, I set goals to be the best in my high school, then the best in Jamaica, then the best in the world.
And for a remarkable period in the 1970s, he came breathtakingly close to making that entire childhood promise real. Olympic gold, 4 career Olympic medals, and the pride of Jamaica and the wider Caribbean turned his name into part of sprinting history. But the image today could hardly be more different. At 75, the roar of the stadium has faded. There are no starting blocks waiting beneath his feet, no desperate chase for another fraction of a second. In Jamaica, life now moves at a gentler pace, closer to home, family, and the ordinary rhythms that fame once pushed into the background. That is what makes Don Quarrie's story worth revisiting. The question is no longer simply how fast he once ran. It is how a man lives after spending decades being remembered for speed. So at 75, what does an ordinary day in Don Quarrie's life in Jamaica really look like? Currently, a typical day for Don Quarrie no longer begins with the starting gun, but his life has never been separate from the racetrack. Born in Kingston and raised around Whitfield Town, Quarrie remains deeply tied to the island that he represented across 5 Olympic Games. Details of his private home are not publicly disclosed, a fitting reflection of a man who has never needed to turn his personal life into spectacle. What is visible, however, Kingston carries his story almost everywhere. A statue of Quarrie stands near Jamaica's National Stadium, preserving the image of the sprinter who once brought Olympic glory home. In eastern Kingston, Donald Quarrie High School carries his name. Reggae music has celebrated him. For most athletes, retirement means gradually disappearing from the places where they were once cheered. Quarrie has experienced something rarer. His name has become part of the landscape of home. Yet he has not simply sat back and admired the monuments. In 2024, Jamaica appointed him Deputy Chef de Mission for its delegation to the Paris Olympic Games, placing a former champion in a leadership role beside a new generation of athletes. The appointment showed that, decades after his own Olympic peak, his experience was still considered valuable to the national team. Even more revealing is his attitude toward learning. In his 70s, Quarrie pursued advanced coaching education through the USATF system, working toward Level 3 certification, the highest level in that coaching pathway. The Jamaica Observer reported on his effort to deepen his technical knowledge so that experience could be passed on with greater precision, not merely nostalgia. That detail says a great deal about the man he has become. He could easily spend these years repeating stories about Montreal 1976. Instead, he still studies, coaches, advises, and looks for ways to help Jamaican athletes improve. So the pace of his later life should not be confused with inactivity. His rhythm is simply different now. Family, community, mentorship, and athletics have replaced the relentless pressure of competition. He can move through the same Jamaica that once watched him leave as a young sprinter with impossible ambitions, now as an elder whose name is written into schools, stadium history, and national memory. So what did Don Quarrie have to survive, sacrifice, and overcome before he could return to this quieter chapter of life? Now we need to go back to a very different Jamaica, long before there were statues, Olympic medals, and a school named after him. In Kingston during the 1950s and 1960s, running was woven into everyday life. Children raced at school events, church picnics, and community gatherings. For young Don, speed did not begin as a career plan. It began as play. His father was a police officer, and police sports events often included races for officers' children. Don and his brothers were given regular chances to compete from the age of 5 or 6. With athletic siblings including Errol, Raymond, and Clifford, competition followed him home. Someone was always there to chase, or trying to catch him. By around 9, his natural ability was becoming difficult to ignore. He ran with unusual smoothness, combining explosive speed with the ability to maintain it. Local track meets revealed that this was more than childhood enthusiasm. But talent alone did not create Don Quarrie.
Believe it or not, I spent my whole summer getting up every morning, running 3-4 miles uphill or on the beach because we had nothing else to do. And that made me so much stronger that once I got into the high school championship, the first year that I ran second year I ran the 100 meters, I more or less dominated it.
That memory captures something essential about his rise. There were no luxury performance centers in the story, just hills, beaches, repetition, and a boy discovering that hard work could turn natural speed into control. By 1965, Quarrie entered Camperdown High School, already known for its strong athletics culture. At his first boys' championships, he reportedly ran 10.9 seconds in the 100 meters and broke the record. Suddenly, the boy racing for fun was becoming one of Jamaica's most exciting schoolboy sprinters. Then in 1968, at only 17, he had been selected for Jamaica's Olympic team bound for Mexico City. Then came the first cruel lesson of elite sport. A training injury prevented him from competing. For a teenager who had already imagined the Olympic stage, it could have broken the dream before it truly began. It did not. Quarrie continued forward, eventually taking his talent to the United States, first through Nebraska and later USC, where more structured training sharpened the speed Jamaica had first discovered. By the 1970 Commonwealth Games, he was no longer merely promising. He won gold in both the 100 and 200 meters. The child from Kingston had entered the world stage, but raw speed can make a young athlete famous for a season. What transformed Don Quarrie into one of the Caribbean's greatest Olympic legends and kept him relevant across 5 Olympic Games? His defining moment came at the 1976 Montreal Olympics. In the 100 meters, Quarrie ran 10.08 seconds and took silver, narrowly beaten by Trinidad and Tobago's Hazely Crawford. For many athletes, that result alone would have defined a career, but Quarrie still had the 200 meters. This time, he left no doubt. He attacked the curve, entered the straight in control, and held off American Millard Hampton to win Olympic gold in 20.23 seconds. Jamaica had its champion, and the Caribbean had another powerful reminder that world sprinting did not belong only to the largest nations. Yet Montreal was not an isolated miracle. At the Commonwealth Games, Quarrie completed the 100 meters to 200 meters double in both 1970 and 1974, becoming the first man to successfully defend both sprint titles. In 1978, he returned again to win a third consecutive Commonwealth 100-meter crown. At the 1971 Pan American Games in Cali, he won both sprints and produced a hand-timed 19.8 seconds over 200 meters, equaling the world record. He would match 19.8 again in 1975 and also run a hand-timed 9.9 seconds for 100 meters in 1976. Placing him among the rare sprinters of his era associated with world record speed in both events. But perhaps the deeper measure of Quarrie's greatness came after the body began fighting back. Before the 1980 Moscow Olympics, his preparation had been disrupted by a car accident. Still, he reached the 200-meter final and won bronze in 20.29 seconds. 4 years later, at 33, an age considered ancient for many elite sprinters of that era, he returned at Los Angeles 1984 and ran the third leg of Jamaica's 4x100-meter relay team, helping secure Olympic silver. Final medal changed the shape of his story. Quarrie was no longer simply the brilliant champion of 1976. He had remained internationally relevant across generations. Long before Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, or Johan Blake turned Jamaica into the modern world's most famous sprint factory, Quarrie had already shown what was possible. A small Caribbean island could produce an athlete capable of challenging anyone, anywhere. That is the real reason his legacy endured. He did not merely win races. He helped expand the imagination of what Jamaican sprinting could become. But once the medals were won and the stadium noise finally faded, another test began. After reaching the summit of world sport, how did Don Quarrie choose to live the rest of his life? Instead of basking in the glory of being the 1976 Olympic champion, he chose the harder path, to continue contributing to the sport. After his final Olympic appearance in 1984, Quarrie gradually moved from competition into coaching, administration, and athlete development. Through his work around Jamaican athletics and the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, he remained close to the system that had once carried his own dreams, now helping younger athletes navigate pressure, preparation, and international competition. Over the following decades, his experience extended into mentoring Olympic-level athletes, supporting Jamaican relay development, and serving in technical and team roles around major championships. He also showed a willingness to challenge the system itself. In 2020, Quarrie ran for the presidency of the JAAA, arguing for change in the administration of Jamaican track and field. That detail matters. He was not content to be a ceremonial legend invited only for photographs. And in 2024, nearly half a century after his Montreal triumph, Jamaica again placed trust in him by appointing Quarrie deputy chef de mission for the Paris Olympic Games. His role was no longer to chase medals with his own legs, but to help guide athletes carrying the same flag he had represented across 5 Olympic cycles. Perhaps even more revealing was his continued commitment to coaching education. In his 70s, Quarrie pursued advanced USATF Level 3 training as Jamaica moved toward higher coaching standards. The Jamaica Observer highlighted his determination to strengthen his technical knowledge rather than rely only on the authority of an Olympic gold medal. There is something deeply human in that image. One of Jamaica's greatest sprinters, decades removed from his prime, still willing to learn. That may be the clearest measure of Quarrie's life after fame. His legacy does not survive only because a statue stands near the National Stadium or because a school carries his name. It survives because he kept showing up as a coach, administrator, mentor, and elder of Jamaican sport. The applause passed, the responsibility remained. And after all those years of racing for Jamaica, teaching for Jamaica, and giving something back to Jamaica, what has become the most valuable treasure in Don Quarrie's own life? Perhaps the most valuable part of Don Quarrie's life is found not in a stadium at all, but in the people who knew him beyond the stopwatch. His family story began during his years at the University of Southern California, where he met Yolanda Davis Quarrie while both were students. Long before the statue, the school bearing his name, or the full weight of Olympic history, there was simply a young Jamaican athlete building a life alongside someone who knew him before the legend had fully formed. Together, they raised 2 daughters, Tara and Kira. And in one of those beautiful circles that sport sometimes creates, both daughters later became sprinters at USC. That detail feels especially meaningful. Don Quarrie spent much of his youth trying to become the fastest version of himself. Years later, his daughters stepped onto the track at the same university connected to an important chapter of their parents' lives. They did not need to reproduce their father's Olympic medals for the family tradition to matter. Simply seeing another generation enter the sport made the legacy personal. This is where Quarrie's peaceful life today becomes easier to understand. Jamaica remains his emotional anchor. Kingston gave him his earliest races, his identity, and the flag he carried across 5 Olympic Games. His family gave him something different, relationships that did not disappear when competition ended. At 75, Quarrie's public life still reflects movement, coaching, learning, mentoring, and supporting Jamaican sport. But the values surrounding that work appear remarkably grounded. Stay connected to home, pass knowledge forward, and never allow yesterday's applause to become the only reason for living today. Medals can be placed in cabinets, records can be broken, even the loudest stadium eventually becomes silent. But family, belonging, and the knowledge passed from one generation to another can travel much farther than any 100-meter race. So when we look back across the full life of Don Quarrie, from a boy running in Kingston to Olympic champion, father, coach, and elder of Jamaican sport, what was the greatest victory he truly won? What do you think of Don Quarrie's journey, and which part of his life has inspired you most?